Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Now, we have a little game we play in the conclave. I think we've done this before on one of our audios, and it's a lot of fun. We call old Thomas here our big tomcat, and we like to get our little red laser dot out and play with our little kitty and see where it takes us.
It's one of the great mysteries of the world why cats, being so smart and so self-absorbed, are concerned about a laser dot.
Look, I'm not talking, everybody knows a laser dot and a cat. I'm talking about the game we play with you.
Well, it's the same thing. You say something in news that is untruth, and we get all upset and we chase after it. And no matter how fast it wants to run away, we're still going to chase after it. So we are researchers, you see. That's what the conclave always was and has been for a long, long time, much longer than anybody knows.
Right. And all we
decades.
do is we continue to ask questions, and we just keep piercing and piercing. Like, well, why are there false flags being run on Americans? And why is there propaganda? And are we living propaganda? And so we just keep asking these questions. But what we're going to do today, I don't think that was very clear. I'm going to just throw out statements. I'm going to throw out ideas. You're going to run with it, tell us what you think, and then we're going to move quickly to the next one. Flynn, docs, drop, Lisa Page, edited Flynn 302 report, lie to DOJ. Boom.
What's Flynn's lawyer's name? Powell? What's her name? Sydney
Yes.
Powell? Mm-hmm. Genius. Always has been a genius. And what did she do? Exactly what we told. That all you had to do, instead of allowing the push and control of the grand jury, which is really a kangaroo court, a star chamber against Flynn, she actually stood up and said, no, you're going to have to show me the evidence. You're going to have to show me all the evidence. You're going to have to also, I have exculpatory evidence that I know you have. So the judge had to, at that point, start to listen. Well, it's been exactly what we said. Now, people don't quite get the whole thing with James Baker. There's two James Bakers. Colonel James Baker is an evil person connected to the Highlands Forum group, and which is connected to the Office of Net Assessment. We've been telling you about this. We were the only people telling you about this a few years back, and if you keep your eye on them, you'll see what's really going on. Now, why would the Office of Net Assessment, which is the group that determines how many people die by the weaponization of patents and or the application of those weaponized patents, which is what Colonel James Baker does. Now, there's James Baker the first, second, and third. James Baker the third, very famous, infamous, bad person. Then there's the other James Baker that was the chief counsel for the Comey group. He was one of Comey's bunk buddies. And we told you from the beginning that James Baker, when he went behind closed doors for his testimony, because he's a lawyer, and he jumped ship, he was one of the first ones, him and Carlin and the lawyers for the DOJ National Security Division and the lawyer for Comey got out first. They jumped ship. Well, they brought him back behind closed doors. He didn't have to come back. He's a lawyer. He didn't have to testify. He no longer worked for the government. So what did he do? We told you back then. That James Baker, Comey's Baker spilt his guts so that he gave his alibis because he was up to his eyes in all of it. He's the one who allowed non-lawyers to actually rewrite the legal judgment that Comey had created concerning Hillary's emails. When Comey hadn't looked at any evidence, when Hillary wasn't even a person of interest in the mid-year exam, she was never questioned. And so Lisa Page was, of course, involved in all of that, but Lisa Page was also involved with taking the notes, the 302 notes from the Michael Flynn conversation and inserting his supposed guilt with false statements. So you have a very confused mess here, and to explain Flynn and the Baker, two James Bakers, is rather complex.
Coming home, Trump tweets. We were supposed to be there for 30 days. That was 10 years ago.
Now remember, Trump is the only person who talks about Syria's oil pipelines. We never bombed them. Had we bombed them, we would have stopped ISIS's money. We would have stopped all of the rebels' money. And we would have stopped the mercenaries from taking the oil out of that area. So now it's secure, and he sent back in a certain type of military to protect those oil pipelines and the oil rigs and all the what's really the wealth of Syria. And there's two sections. The Russians have control of the end of the one, and we have control with the end of the other one. There's actually two. One comes out of Jordan. That one doesn't work anymore, but that's the reason that Pelosi was in Jordan, along with Adam Schiff, trying to get their piece of the pie, because when Syria actually calms down. Now, this is a beautiful thing. No one's going to tell you this. Why did they go to Jordan? A number of reasons. But the big reason is because if Trump creates peace in Syria, then the Jordanian pipeline will make Jordan rich. So they were over there getting their piece of the pie. In other words, setting up their connections for the gas and oil pipeline money that will go through Jordan. Now, Jordan's secure because we built a multi-billion-dollar wall there to protect them, and we did that through OPIC, which is what they go over and promise. You see, the congressional corrupt, tenured Democrats know exactly who are the golden children of OPEC. And OPEC are sometimes, let's just say, hundreds of billions of dollars in loans guaranteed by we the people, the taxpayers of America, which they're always they default on. And basically we give loans to build a wall in Jordan. We didn't build a wall on our southern border, but we did. That's why they were there. So Trump has fooled them all. We told you that he made them go out of their minds because he moved 28 people. 28 people. He did not move everyone out of Syria. That is nonsense. He tried to play that game. And when he played the game, what happened? Turkey came forward and said, we want a genocide of all Kurds. Period. That's what we told you. That's the whole thing. That's what it's about. If you kill all the Kurds, then Turkey gets the rights. There's no more middleman for the oil coming out of Iraq. There's no more middleman for the oil coming out of Syria, and particularly the northern routes, and particularly what will be the Jordanian pipeline again. So it's all about this kind of nonsense. So Trump made them set their hair on fire. And what happened? We still see that the Turks can't help themselves. They want to kill every Kurd. And even they're in a ceasefire. It doesn't matter. They're going to kill every Kurd they can. It's just, that's what they want to do. Genocide, just like with the Armenians. And then they're going to lie about it. Erdogan's one of the most dangerous men on the face of the earth. We've told everybody this again and again. We've told you what controls him. Fethullah Gulen, that's why Gulen's in America, so on and so forth.
John Ratcliffe says the DOJ was used by Obama to go after the enemies.
That is so clear now because of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. And Tom Wolfe, of course, giving the FISA reports to Ali Watkins, as well as many, many other top secret things.
Yeah, but who is Obama's enemies here?
The entire DOJ, Department for National Security. Every one of the three lawyers, starting with Carlin and then his two replacements.
No, who's the enemy of Obama that he would use the DOJ to do this? Who is the enemy to Obama? It's we, the American people. That's who the enemy is.
Explain that. I don't know.
Well, he's using the Obama administration clearly used the DOJ, the FBI, the whole apparatus, Five Eyes, a whole bit, to try to undo an election that we the people had and voted for our president. By using this against us, he has weaponized the U.S. government against we the people. Obama sees us as the enemy. So who controls Obama? Well, then we walk it back, and we've uncovered to you all the way back to the Privy Council, the Pilgrim Society, the whole plan for the whole evil takeover of the planet. And Obama was there to execute it here on the American stage.
George Soros is funding Obama. He's the one who chose Obama over Hillary and said, wait, you have to wait your turn, Hillary. I'll give you billions for your election when you come up, because then we want you in for another 8 years. So they intended to get 16 years of George Soros, and we almost had it. So the enemy of the people is the weaponized federal government under these rogue presidents who are not American. Barack Obama is not an American. He can't run for office. It's not his name, his fraud, his 13 aliases,
but
the whole
that
thing.
scumbag John Roberts vetted him and said, yes, he passes. He can run for president.
Well, the Supreme Court is completely compromised from the beginning with the a priori assumption that you can appoint a completely partisan person. So whoever the president is for however many years, that is how the Supreme Court goes. So it's a pathetic excuse for justice. It has nothing to do with justice at this point. It's completely political.
Okay, let me throw something else at you. Wars were planned and executed by the central banks and the Pilgrim Society to feed off the bodies and blood of people around the world, not just American soldiers. War is profitable to these bloodthirsty demons.
Yes, and that's been proven by the researchers at Americans for Innovation and working with Michael McKibben, their spokesperson. And what has come out is the absolutely clear picture for even, unfortunately, people who thought they were historians, that there is a secret social club that has manipulated all of the United Kingdom, Britain, and America, and basically the Anglo-American alliance, which created Bolshevism, and created World War I and World War II, simply because the Brits were trying to keep up with the German Hanseatic League and the Dutch East India Company. So it's corporate war that controls governments. And they control it through banks. They control it through the media. As soon as you say banks, you say media. The banks own the media. Because the bank... You ever hear anything bad about banks? No. Why? Because the banks own the media. Anyone that is really evil that you don't hear about, like a George Soros, he has huge investment in the media. Matter of fact, his NGOs are the supposed, the democratic free speech leaders of the media in the world. And in fact, he has created the worst grip to squelch free speech in American history. So it goes back to very simple things. It goes back to the $6 billion that George Soros spent on the campaigns of Obama and Hillary, and the way they used the media, Silicon Valley, which is a weaponized corporation. It is not the DOD anymore, folks. And we keep trying to explain this to people. That's the reason Colonel James Baker and the Office of Net Assessment had hired Stephen Halper to stop an election. Why? Because they consider it weaponized. So Optech, the thing that controls elections, is a weaponized form of Highland Forum's intervention in the entire world. This isn't just America. When these evil international people get together who steal patents and control and weaponize every patent that comes through America, through Britain, and throughout the rest of the world, because they'll go and take anything they want, these are very powerful people. So why would they be concerned with Flynn? Because Flynn was leading a new direction in the National Security Council under Obama to get the corporate intelligence out. Well, 65% of our intelligence is with corporate intelligence who work for international groups, so they are not Americans. They are not for America. They are for their business, and their business is international. And this is what the Highlands Forum, the Highlands Group it's called, but they have Highlands Forum. And James Baker, Colonel James Baker is there with Dick O'Neill, and it was, of course, started by Yoda. They call him
Andrew Marshall.
He's dead now. Yeah, Andrew Marshall. But these are the evilest people on the earth. These people sit around and calculate how many people will die by their new weaponized stolen patent, or an expansion of what they're already doing in the cyber world, or with hypersonic missiles. You name it, it comes out of this group. And now we hear that that's where the leak came from. Well, we know Lisa Page changed the 302s that caused the leak. So Lisa was working with the Highlands Forum, James Baker, Office of Net Assessment. Do people get this? This is another intelligence community connection that had been weaponized against Trump, and this is the proof.
Okay, let's go there. Bard and Durham investigation is now officially a criminal investigation.
This is a great move. And this is very important. And we told you the very next move, and the reason that the conclave that hardly even comes over anymore, not because I haven't been out to the Cheesecake Factory or that the cappuccino machine isn't working. No. It's because we're sitting back and watching the wheels fall off the bus of the Democratic Party, which is revealing the weaponized Obama administration and use of the intelligence community and their fake JAR report and their fake AIC report and all the fake reports So now it's Clapper and Brennan who lied, who are out there breaking their security contracts, being on national television, international television, lying. And so it has to be criminal. Now, it's good because the question, and this is what everybody wants to say, is will they, or they want to encourage there to be a grand jury or a special counsel? No. We want a criminal investigation that is public. Any grand jury is pure evil. It is a star chamber, and there's not a civilized country in the world that uses them. We and Liberia, the only two countries that still use them. We got to end all special counsels. There's no such thing. Special counsels are created if there is a compromise between the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, and the White House. Only time you'd ever need to use it. And so when the Crossfire Hurricane was against the White House, it reversed the process, and they started to use this evil process that they used to get rid of their enemies. And notice anybody else who leaks goes straight to jail. Anybody else who gives away a secret goes to jail anytime they want. But a James Wolfe, who we have the biggest leaks ever to Ali Watkins out of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is directly connected to the Department of Justice, National Security Division, which was connected to the following people. Andrew Weissman, who had his hands on the dossier from its actually second installment in March of 2016. He is more guilty than anybody that they were trying to prosecute in that special counsel. Who was there with him? Let's see if I get her name right. Zainab Ahmad.
Yeah, that's it.
And then who also was controlling them? Arvinder Sambai, the FBI contact in London through the Privy Council.
No, more than that. She is like the Crown prosecutor. No, that's Alison Saunders, right?
My next question.
Arvinder Sambai is like buddies with this whole cabal that we've called out in the Pilgrim Society and the Privy Council, and she's actually their operative, who is Mueller's handlers. Goes back to 9/11.
As we told you from the beginning, Comey and his bunk buddies are so friggin' stupid that they are either insanely stupid, and they're not because they're clever and they're evil, or they're being controlled. Who are they being controlled by? Arvinder Sambai. She was in the top bunk above Comey. Okay, she was telling Comey and Mueller what to do and has throughout this whole thing all the way back to 9/11. And then Alison Saunders met with Nellie Orr and Bruce Orr, and Bruce Orr's not been fired yet because why? He's an SES, one of the 500 supreme SES lawyers in the DOJ. So they can't fire him. And has really Andrew McCabe really lost any money? I doubt it. He probably got his retirement. He's SES.
He did withdraw his lawsuit against the DOJ or the FBI for his firing.
Yeah, those are all just political theater. And so when you see this stuff, folks, please remember, do not react to headlines.
Okay, well, let's react to this one. Trump accuses Obama of treason for spying on his 2016 campaign.
Now, that's a fact. Why? But we knew that. Because why? We knew about Susan Rice's message saying exactly who was in the office, who was completely aware and in control of the Crossfire Hurricane attack on an election. And they were the opposition research and basically the weaponized intelligence community. So Trump can say it now. We've been saying it for a long, long time, and we gave you the facts, and we gave you the details, and we gave you who it was, and it's all coming unglued. And so the unmasking Susan Rice and Samantha Powers and all the people who jumped ship and James Baker's hidden testimony, which now is probably going to be released. And when it is, I'm afraid that they're going to have to do things like, give us Comey's emails. Why do we have Comey's emails? He's a treasonous, seditious, evil anti-American. Why is he walking free? Why don't we have his emails? If we looked at his emails and John Brennan's and Clapper's, they'd all go to jail. Because this is treason. It's worse than treason. It's a coup that's still going on. They are still attacking our current president.
A federal judge has ruled that the Justice Department must turn over former special counsel Robert Mueller's grand jury evidence to the House Judiciary Committee. A victory for Democrats in their effort to investigate whether Donald Trump obstructed the long-running Russia probe.
Now, if you believe that headline, then I'm going to ask you a simple question. This is what I'm talking about. Won't another judge just go the opposite direction? Yes. And even if it was, it would still have to redact the parts that by law that cannot be given to the Congress, which is everything that is still current with the 17 cases, which were done that way to make sure no one ever looked at this. So the Democrats are trying to demand something that Robert Mueller can't let go. If he lets go of any of that, then it's going to come out that he interviewed Stephen Rowe and let him go. He interviewed Joseph Misson and let him go. The very man that he says was the Russian spy. If any of it comes out, Robert Mueller is just boiling in a pot. Because why? The Democrats are so stupid, they're just using it for political theater. It's like Adam Schiff's hearings. It's all done, folks. He doesn't care what anybody says. The write-up for the impeachment articles are done. It doesn't matter what they say. It matters when Pelosi takes the vote. And of course, every Democrat's going to vote for impeachment. Question is, that isn't true. Because every Democrat is not going to vote for impeachment because they don't want to lose their election coming up because they're in a Trump area and they know that their district and the state has gone for Trump. So they can't stand and say that they want impeachment and then they get not elected again. So Pelosi doesn't want this. Pelosi really doesn't want to vote on it. So right now, they're in the worst conundrum they've ever been in their entire life. It would not surprise me. I already predicted that Bernie would have a heart attack because Bernie is trying to look like he's the person that George Soros paid for. George Soros paid for a socialist to come into America and preach insanity, complete communism, complete cultural Marxism, complete chaotic Marxism, complete insanity. Nothing Bernie says, nothing Elizabeth Warren says, nothing AOC or the gang says can be put into reality because they're not in reality. And so we need that because it was shown that a lot of crazy Americans want to vote for people like that because in their crazy brain, probably from all the stress we're under and all the EMFs penetrating us and the fluoride in the water, as you always point out, bad food, all the poisonings, they're so stupid that they believe Hillary Clinton should be elected instead of put in jail for the rest of her life and have to disgorge the billions of dollars she stole from practically every nation on the earth.
Matt Gates says, we got to stop thinking we can use Marquis of Queensberry rules against an angry pack of rabid hyenas.
Okay, here's the reality. The rules that they put in place, remember that they changed, I forget, I don't want to misquote it, but many House rules. And everybody said, oh, no. If they're changing this is part of their impeachment calendar. So before Pelosi, well, actually, when she had the votes, the second she had the votes, this began. And those laws, those regulations, they don't mean anything. Remember that. Almost everything that goes on in the Congress means nothing. Why? Because the president has control to veto. So if it doesn't have the president's support, they could do whatever they want. Now, the only thing they do have control over is impeachment, and then they're going to have to get the Supreme Court involved, and there's going to have to actually be evidence. Well, there's no evidence on any of this. The evidence is in Trump's favor. And if it goes to the Senate and the evidence comes forth, and if that's perhaps why Trump is waiting and isn't pushing on, he's also waiting for Michael Horowitz, and that's why Michael Horowitz is waiting for impeachment to be voted on before he releases his report, which hasn't indicted anybody. Trump is going to use all of that to exonerate himself, plus he's got all the exculpatory evidence, which shows that it was a conspiracy. And then those people go to jail. There won't be impeachments, and there won't be referendums or recalls. There will be people going to jail who, like Adam Schiff, who actually say they have evidence, but when it comes down to a real court case, because when it reaches the Senate, it's going to be a real court case. It isn't going to be a kangaroo vote in a stupid Congress that can vote anything they want. They can vote for the Green New Deal. Okay, folks, these are the same people who voted yes for the Green New Deal. They're insane. Anyone who votes for them is insane.
This is a Trump tweet from October 24th, 2019. The Federal Reserve is derelict in its duties if it doesn't lower the rate and even ideally stimulate Take a look around the world at our competitors. Germany and others are actually getting paid to borrow money. Fed was way too fast to raise and way too slow to cut. And then I also offer a headline, Fed boosts amount of liquidity offered to financial system.
Now, this is so complicated, I had to ask
I'll give you plenty of time.
Chris Earl Strunk.
Yes.
Only Chris Earl Strunk could explain this to me. This is what I think I understood from what he said, because this has never happened in history.
And Chris, if you are in the comment box and you need to make some adjustments, please do. We'll pin your comment to the top.
We bow to your banking wisdom.
Okay.
Okay, so, but it seems right. And once I looked into it, it definitely seems right. I can't find anybody who will oppose what I'm about to say. They're not giving them money, they're giving them digits. So when the U.S. Federal Reserve, in supposed connection with the Treasury, is giving out overnight digital security credit, it's because those banks can't balance their books in the day. Because why? The money that they've borrowed from the Fed is at too high of a rate, and they don't get any money back when they loan it out. So what happens? They're going to go bankrupt. Now, what's going to happen to all the credit? We're looking at, I haven't added it up, but it's headed towards $1 trillion worth of this fake digital money pumped in at night to cover the bank's shortfalls because of their fractional banking. So basically, there's no liquidity because they have no money. Banks don't have any money. They get the money for usually the day or the next day. That's it. They don't have a bunch of money. They don't have liquidity. They've loaned it all out at ridiculous rates so that they make money back, but they don't hold the money. So who is responsible for that? That's the U.S. Treasury. But who is actually propping it up? The U.S. Fed. Now, why is the U.S. Fed doing that? Because later that credit could either take down all the small banks that need to get that money, or if those banks go bankrupt, then bigger banks buy the credit and they use that to balance their books, basically corruptly. Now, we've already told you, and many people have probably told you this on many different channels, that the Fed has now told the central banks of America to buy and use 1/3 of their assets to buy stock on the stock market. That's why the stock market went up in such a dramatic way. And then when they wanted to get out, because then the Fed told them to get out, we started seeing 500-point drops in a day. That's the Fed selling off. So the Fed is selling off the stock market. Stock market's still going up. Why is the stock market still going up? Because these banks are still giving out money in fractional lending for people to buy on the stock market because the stock market's going up, but they don't have any money when it comes down to it. But, that's right, the banks are the investors in the stock market. When you talk about the military-industrial complex or you talk about who owns the stock market, it isn't the 401ks. Take that out of the equation. If you just talk about who owns it, those are banks. Behind every asset management company, no matter what name they have, we can go down the list. It's always the same. Look closely. Look 3-4 levels. You'll see the large banks. You'll see the very people who came to this country to rip us off economically, and we still live in the demise of our economic system because it's connected to the U.S. Federal Reserve. We need to get out of that. And there's ways to get out. We've told everyone ways to get out. But here's the deal. Don't worry. Mnuchin is causing this, and Trump is causing this. Why are they causing this? Because they're demanding that the U.S. Fed come in line with the rest of the markets in the world. Because if they don't, it makes Trump look bad. So the Fed is being the globalists that we know they are, and they're trying to manipulate politics economically to make Trump look bad. And so we're pumping money into the economy. No, they're not. They're pumping money into their fake banking economy, which is all fake. And it's okay if it falters. Get your money out of the banks. If you're holding your money and you think the banks are going to give you money because that system works, you're mistaken. If you got your money in 401ks,
no, because they have that whole bail-in legislation.
Now,
before they go down, they take the money out of your account.
Yeah. That's going to happen. That's where this is headed. Now, we have been told that at the end of November, they're going to attempt to crash the market by the Fed's fake infusion of capital. And telling us that now, has anyone noticed? They're blaming the $1 trillion of new debt on Trump. That's a U.S. Federal Reserve decision. That's not Trump's decision. Trump has told them all along. Just as he says, all the other countries are being paid to take money from their central bank, whereas we are penalizing everyone when we're in the best economy we could ever be. If they simply lowered the rates and made the overnight LIBOR rates the loan value to these banks we're talking about. It has nothing to do with us, folks.
Right, but that is the point of view from looking down here in the trenches and looking up there to this banking problem. If you flip it and you look at their issue of what's happening to them, they're running out of time. That proverbial kick the can down the road, it's over for them. And they see it and they know it, and they have nothing left to save themselves.
I can bet a nickel that if Trump gets reelected, that the U.S. Federal Reserve will be on the same road that the United Nations and the World Bank and the World Trade Organization and the Climate Accord, the Paris Climate Accord, and TPP and TIPP and NAFTA, they're all done. That's globalism. They're all done.
And that's why we all need to get to the polls 2020. Make sure Trump has a landslide you can't believe. Folks, show up for the rallies, because whether you get inside or outside, your picture will show all over the world, and it will show our physical support for Donald Trump. And then those Optech rigged machines, that Mitt Romney and George Soros are involved in which Ronna Romney McDaniel, the head of the RNC, still refuses to report on her uncle's fractionalized rigged voting system to the American people. But anyway, all that can be taken care of once we get Donald Trump in.
It's very simple. All the people who come out to his rallies, if he doesn't get elected, they go to their state capital and demand a paper ballot count. Yes. And if the state doesn't have a paper ballot count, you fire all your politicians because it's illegal, and it took away your right to vote. If you don't have a paper ballot backup, you can't cast your vote for a federal election. That's the law. So march on your capital if Trump doesn't win.
Well, it's the American Yellow Vest movement, so to speak, because we're doing it peacefully. We do it rally by rally. If it's within driving distance, show up. Now let's look at something else, another topic. Let's just go over here. I'm going to say the name Office of Compliance and Katie Slut of the Hill.
Well, Katie's just doing what she was taught in her orientation on the Hill, that the Office of Compliance is going to pay for any of her sexual misdeeds, any of her rapes. These are rapes. Any of her having sex with her own interns, which is against the law. That's a federal crime. But because they have their own law on Capitol Hill, and because they don't let the president be the sheriff, which is what's supposed to happen, the state, the Capitol Hill police are supposed to be controlled by the president. They don't listen to the president. That's the reason they let Imran Awan off. That's the reason they let everybody off. That's the reason they let people who are on Alzheimer's drugs, who don't even know where they are, go and vote for you as if they're representing their constituency.
Back here to the Office of Compliance.
$17 million in 20 years was spent to cover up crimes of Al Green sexually attacking people. So many sexual attacks. They won't tell you exactly how many and who, because they say that's covered up. Everyone involved basically signs a non-disclosure agreement, which is legal. But they give up their rights because they get paid off $17 million. And I assure you that those books are cooked. 10 times that amount. That's what I would suggest. Because look at Al Green. Let's talk about Al Green, the man who's brought impeachment charges against Trump. The Office of Compliance has paid for many of his misdeeds, but his last misdeed cost a sexual attack on an intern $750,000 from We the People's pocket. He put it on his expense account as a congressman. And that's the reason that he can't open his eyes. Notice he can't open his eyes, and notice nothing but evil comes out of his mouth. Why? He's only there to take advantage. Most of those people are there to take advantage. And the Office of Compliance is there, whether it's discrimination, old person discrimination, sexual attack, rapes, any indiscretion is simply paid off if it's on Capitol Hill. That's disgusting. That should be
I want to know why the American people aren't seeing the list. If we're picking up the tab for all their effing, why aren't we seeing what the effing list is?
Oh, no. That's the most guarded list that there is on Capitol Hill. You will never see that list. You won't even find out who wrote those non-disclosure agreements. You won't find out who's involved. We can't find out that certain ones may be serial sexual predators, which is what we suspect because we see it. And the ethics committee only gets involved at the point that they attack people not on Capitol Hill, when they attack people of their own states, because they're senators, they're representatives, and they attack people because that's what they're used to doing on Capitol Hill. That's what interns are for. Boys and girls. George H.W. Bush bought and paid for, used government money to bring boys from Boys Town to sell for political capital. This was all over the newspapers again and again. Did it even stop after that? No. This is why it is the District of Crime, the Washington District of Crime. Crime is allowed there. That it's just, they lie, they cheat, they steal, they rape, and now this crazy girl. Okay, wait. AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. Her lover was Chakrabarti, her campaign manager who broke so many rules, 5 rules in a row, that he had to quit to hide so AOC wouldn't be kicked out.
Ilhan Omar is the same way. She is dating her campaign guy, and those are campaign funds being used for sexual purposes.
For political favors is so common that I would suggest that AOC didn't just have Chakrabarti as her boyfriend, but probably Cenk Uygur and all the rest of the Young Turks, because that is one of the worst fascist groups ever. That is Mazzini himself, Giuseppe Mazzini. That's who we have in AOC. That's the reason that she preaches insanity, and then insane people vote for her.
Let's look at progressivism. Here is a statement about progressivism. When you do not have a cosmology and are wandering aimlessly towards an unknown place, when you have no moral compass and the devil is your chauffeur, when you're a godless globalist or an instrument of evil. Thomas, where are we headed?
We're headed for Hillary Clinton saying a few days ago that the Constitution is a piece of paper. Let's remember that the Rockefellers put forth legislation to create a new Constitution. Let's remember that Mitt Romney has trampled on the Constitution. Let's remember that anyone can buy the governorship of Massachusetts. Look at the list of people who never lived there, who go there and become governor. That's what progressivism is. Progressivism is taking advantage of the political situation by jerry-rigging, gerrymandering, by law, by using the Democratic National Convention as a money laundering device, by creating super PACs so that normal humans in America mean nothing because George Soros can come in and control the airwaves the few minutes before the election, and that's all people tend to remember. Anything who watch television is the last few minutes they watched. George Soros said he had already bought. He said Hillary Clinton would absolutely win the election because he had already paid for his super PAC advertisements that he was certain would bring in the votes of the electorate. Now, how could he say that? Because there's subliminal programming in them. And that's perfectly legal. It's been legal since 1969. And that's the reason Trump keeps mentioning, and other people keep mentioning, that this type of media, there are laws against it. It's not only racketeering, it's not antitrust, and it's not monopoly. They allowed that to happen. Let the government unwind those companies if they wish. That's not what's going on. It's racketeering. They are breaking the law because they know that they are propagandizing lies that affect national security and manipulate politics. So when you talk about progressivism, progressive towards what? And if you don't have a cosmology, you don't know where you're going. Where's Hillary's cosmology? She wants to be just like the Queen of England and her Privy Council. And where is the cosmology of all these different people who are grasping for power? They don't have one. What they have is, by default, the cosmology of the 7 deadly sins. And they think that they're going to grasp all they can because this is all there is here on this material plane. So their cosmology ends at their death. and whatever they have in their foundations that goes on to their children. That's why all of these people, that's why you see Alexander Soros coming out now, acting like he's George Soros. That's why you see Chelsea Clinton standing next to her mom and people going, oh, wait a second, hey, oh, well, it's okay. If Hillary says Chelsea should run, it's okay. That's why we see Liz Cheney. That's why we see McCain's daughter and McCain's wife. And that's why we see Elijah Cummings' wife, who couldn't finish running for governor because of her corruption of stealing money. And let's remember that Trump just called out billions of dollars of theft from Elijah Cummings' own district, and his wife was involved in stealing that money. She now wants to take his place. Isn't that proof to you, folks, that Capitol Hill is essentially the same thing as Katie Hill? They're just a bunch of sluts who have no cosmology. But if they did, then they would have a conscience and they wouldn't be able to do these evil deeds. And they would start to go towards the 7 holy virtues, the 7 sacred virtues, so that when they die, it isn't demons who come to take them off, but it's angels. And they don't get that at all. So whether they understand it or not, they will all have to answer for what they've done. And that's why the wheels are coming off of the bus, and Trump is taking even bigger and stronger swings at them. And anyone who gets in the ring with him one-on-one loses. So thank you, Mr. Trump. And as we look up in the sky, every day that I don't see chemtrails, because we used to see 50 of them every day, I thank you. There's a lot of things you're doing with sanctions and other things that are causing the wheels to come off the bus. So thank you for removing the lug nuts, and I can't wait to watch that bus go over the cliff and see the end of the Progressive Party.